You going? There we go. Usually I love like the skeleton at the end, but I didn't have the guest spot caught me off guard. That was good, Ronnie.
Yeah. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Comics de la Muerte. I'm Ronnie Gunter, Crimson Isle Comics. My co-host, Frogbreaker Studios, Jason Alexander, and our special guest today, Team Manticore, Rob and Rowan.
Hello.
Thank you guys for coming on.
Welcome, y'all.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Not a problem. And we already got people in the chats.
Yeah, what's going on? Who's in the chats? Hey, Teresa, what's going on? Thanks for stopping by.
For sure. So pretty much before we get into like horror related questions, you guys want to talk about, yourself and all the books and stuff that you do.
We have so many things.
Yeah. We'll start off with the horror comics. Like, what made you guys want to do that instead of focusing on any other genre?
For me, it was venting. Horror allowed me to explore things that were really bothering me and horrified me, and my anger about certain things. My first big comic, my first web comic was 2003. So I was in high school. So I was full of angst. So I created a serial killer who loved bad puns, and he would just murder. And as a result, I was able to vent a little bit and get it out of my system.
This is 13 years of comics she did.
That's cool.
Wow, no way. That's awesome.
Yeah. And you can see the art change over time.
You could kill a man with this book. It's
Maybe that was the whole purpose. Like maybe it was like the final chapter in the book was the book became a murder weapon.
I was always very drawn to the horror and the scary. It was just my jam, like innately. So
Gotcha.
there really was no other option. Like it was
right.
So for me, it was therapy. For you, it was just you as a person.
Yeah,
I like that.
That's cool. And I've seen that you guys make plushies and do movies as well. What made you want to then all of a sudden transition into making those different sources of incomes and creativity?
Let's start with the plushies.
Boredom. I always liked sculpture anyway. And sometimes I would paint things and I would sculpt into the painting and use clay and other materials and sometimes fabric. And I learned how to sew. My mother had taught me sewing in general.
Gotcha.
And it just became like, well, I can make something cute. And then sometimes I can make that cute thing a zombie instead. And it just kind of blended from there.
For sure.
That's awesome. So you guys do all your own plushies too. That's
All the plushies are handcrafted, and a lot of them have a charitable cause as well. Like if you buy one of our plush bats, 20% of that sale goes to Bat World Sanctuary, their bat rescue operation headquartered down in Texas. So it actually helps real bats, and we try to tie that in with a bunch of other stuff too. We have rainbow patterns that goes towards LGBTQ organizations.
Nice.
I'm blanking on other stuff.
We have a whole page that talks about all of it.
There's a whole,
Awesome.
We did the platypus for Australia. When the Australia had the wildfires, we made a platypus, and it went to the Australian Red Cross to help out there.
Awesome.
That's
awesome.
Nice.
It still does that.
So we like making the things, but we also like
helping.
Yeah, we like helping. We don't want to just.
It matters. What you do matters to you. That's really cool.
For sure.
We don't just want to do it for us. We feel like it should like help the world too, because it's like no one needs a plush bat really. Like they need food or shelter, but but the bats need help and
I think the plushies are sometimes comfort. Are the people that we tend to sell to are quite adorable. Like the things we make, they're a little bit frightening and a little bit adorable.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Like we love horror and we love, scarier things, but we're also nice people. And we're not the only ones.
Yeah, that's like me. Like my horror can get like pretty grim, but that's not me. But you know, the story has a purpose,
right?
You know, and it's in me, but it's not. You know, I try not to be too moody and broody, but
it has to go somewhere.
Gotta go somewhere. Yeah, absolutely.
As I think the movie, though, I think that was just I had an idea for a script, and I read books like from Rodriguez and from people who were involved in trauma, and I was just like, I don't think anyone's going to stop me if I start making a movie. And so far, no one stopped me.
Nobody can stop you.
I still have some like tweaks to do. We just went through again. I've got some color corrections and some like audio tweaks because it's not quite perfect yet, but I'm trying to. It's so.
How awesome is that?
We did animation.
Yeah, we did animation for it too.
So. Oh, sweet!
No way. Listen to this. You guys are like the local crafty Walmart of horror. Like,
right?
You cover all bases. I love it.
For sure. That's cool. So with you being a couple and everything, like, is it easier for you guys to work together, or how was it for you guys to like, okay, I'm gonna focus on the writing and I'll focus on my artwork, and then not try to clash like, well, you know, I wrote this, but I kind of see my character looking like this, so can you draw my character like that? Or did you guys just like, okay, you do this better and I do that better, so I'm not going to bother you about it?
I think the communication was number one, but in general, if one of us like makes the idea, it's their idea, and the other person can like pitch suggestions, but the ultimate decision is going to be the creator because it's their vision. And you're just there to help them mold that vision, not kind of interject your own stuff.
But Unicorns was both of us.
Unicorns was both of us because we both wrote and drew back and forth on that one. I also think we integrate really well because you were making plushies before I came along. But I came in and said, why don't we make like standardized models, and then we can do variations off of that. So if because it used to just be the plushies were whatever size she happened to cut, but now we have like large, medium, small.
I want to make this very clear. The comics I did also.
Yes.
Dead Ray was sometimes done on watercolor paper because it's what I had on hand.
Yeah.
I would rip up pieces of like garbage to try to draw on because it's just whatever was around. Now everything is standardized. And the right sizes.
I had to take all your like ripped page doodles and format it into a book when we did the book, and I was just like, you need to do a standard.
And also my accountant. Things make sense now. On my own, I'm chaos.
Now, do you guys set deadlines for yourself, like especially with your stories? Like, do you set? How does that work?
It depends.
Hard and soft deadlines. I think we have goals for the year. But obviously, like, things happen throughout the year. So this year, I think we have all your Donna books, and we're going to combine those into, now that story is done with the 3 books, we're going to combine those into a hardcover. But we don't have, like, a hard date for that. That's just, like, something we'll work on until it's done and released.
I still have an extra, like, couple pages I want to end to.
Yeah, you've got some bonus pages. That. So, luckily, since we do it all ourselves, we're not really answerable to like outside factors. So.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a very interesting dynamic because partners is one thing, but like to live with your creative partner, like on the business side, like that's very different because it's not like you guys don't know where you are. So there's like the need of a deadline. I'm sure it shifts quite a bit at that point.
We do push each other.
Yes.
Positive, not push. In nice ways, we nudge, we bring each other with us. They're like, House Fight Durable, I have to have a new one every week. So things like that, the short term, there are deadlines. But then the longer term projects, it's sometimes like, well, is this priority? Can it go back burner? Sometimes things go way back burner, and I put it in my morgue. I have a little filing cabinet that has a plaque on it that says morgue, and that's where I put all the dead ideas that I can then bring out and bring back to life if I need something.
That's awesome.
The other thing too is like we're just constantly thinking of stuff, so it's a matter of like, okay, well, what are we getting done first? And that's more important than deadline because something's going to get done.
We've joked before we could stop having ideas tomorrow and we still have a lifetime of projects to finish. So
that's good. You're giving yourself job security.
So So besides the big book that you have there, what is you want to talk a little bit about your ongoing series that you have on your website, the webcomic there?
The cute, actually family friendly one. That's House Fight
Uh,
Dwarf.
I think it was the comic with the different people. Can't remember.
There's Oh Hell Donna.
Yeah, I think that's the one.
But you can still read it for free.
Okay,
That one is
gotcha.
still
That's the one. Yeah.
in existence.
Yeah.
And that one I am editing slightly. I'm adding some pages, and this is the one my dad called X-rated, and I responded by drawing someone actually nude later in the third book, just like a random cat. Just be like, "Oh, you want X-rated?"
I'll show you.
Which I realized was weirdly spiteful. My father's very supportive. I'm not sure why that was my response. That's really the reason I got into horror.
Awesome.
Because, I'd be awake in the middle of the night with unrelated nightmares, and he'd be watching like the Hammer film or the Universal horror films. There were some big ones, so a lot of like Dracula and the Wolfman.
Mhm.
And I would just sit down and watch until I fell asleep on the couch. So very fond memories of Lon Chaney Jr.
I was the
Awesome.
alone horror freak in my house. I was just up at 2 a.m. watching like whatever was on the late night, like Monster Vision.
Mm-hmm.
Etc.
Everyone was just like, "Why are you watching that?"
Because it's on.
Yeah, it was just the weirdest thing.
I used
weird.
I used to love watching Tales from the Dark Side or Twilight Zone, like when it used to come on like network TV, like late Saturday night. Sometimes that would be the only thing on, like before we went to the movie theater we cleaned. I would get to watch it, or I would watch it when we got back home. But I didn't have a huge ton of exposure to horror as a kid, but definitely like stuff like that was on TV was kind of like, I think that's kind of why I do enjoy short horror so much. Like I love telling short, like just these really short, like disconnected, scary stories. And I don't know. That's just kind of the only roots that I had with horror as a kid, other than a few laundromat movies.
Right.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
All right. So, speaking of horror, we'll start then getting into our conversations. What would be your guys' favorite slasher?
You want to go first?
No.
Pinhead. Earlier in life, I'd say Freddy Krueger, but as my horror taste developed, I found it kind of because later on in the Freddy Krueger series, like you're meant to root for Freddy Krueger. Like they introduce all these kids and like, we're gonna kill these kids. You're supposed to cheer for Freddy because he's got quips. But then you think about it, it's just like you're having me root for a child molester.
Yeah.
It's weird when you bring it back to the roots of like the horror of the series.
Mm-hmm.
But Pinhead has like just completely like his no morality that like patterns onto humans.
Yeah. For sure.
Lisa, I mean, later ones they kind of like leaned into the demon thing more, but the original concept is just like these are creatures from outside time and space that just they're not trying to torture you. They're just like, isn't this fun? This is what we do for fun.
Mm-hmm.
Hellraiser, I like watching the first and the second back to back as one movie.
Yeah, because it's like 5 minutes between the two.
It's like really just a continuation, same story.
And then you can watch Hellraiser 4, which is one of the few movies that the director successfully removed their names from.
They just didn't want to be involved.
Just hated so much. I forget what the stand-in name is, but the director hated it. I love that movie because it is hot garbage, but it's my favorite kind of garbage.
See, Hellraiser was on the list for me, and I didn't know if it counted or not.
I'd say Hellraiser is a slasher.
But I'm thinking just specifically what I'm narrowing down as slasher. I would actually say the first Friday the 13th.
Okay.
Specifically the first. Because there are a lot of things that when people think about it now, they kind of forget. There are a lot of assumptions that were made about slashers in general after that point that then became like standard, even if it wasn't really what happened in that movie.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Like who the killer is.
Everyone forgot.
Yeah.
So did they lose you when he became a magical zombie? Was that the point where you're just like, no more of this?
A little bit. But I think I just kind of missed his mom. I think I just, there was something neat about because that's what always comes up when people say that there aren't like women slashers, that there aren't, and then you never saw that first movie.
Yeah, you're not really paying attention to the whole. You could say there are less women slashers and certainly less iconic ones, but there's what, like 4 or 5 Night of the Demons movies. There's more of those.
Oh my gosh. The first one, I love Night of the Demon, the first one. And then they made a 2000 sequel. I mean, a remake. That was bad. I did not like that one.
I do remember that one was disappointing.
Yeah.
Jennifer's Body comes to mind.
Jennifer's Body is really good. That's another one. We were talking about movies before. That's another one that like got its due later. Like at the time, no one appreciated it, and it kind of came back around.
I like Jennifer's Body a lot.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one either yet.
It's fun. It is a fun one.
It's good. It's a good one. Okay, so with the slashers now, what is your favorite horror movie of all time?
Does Beetlejuice count as a horror movie? I feel like it doesn't. In which case, just The Thing, 1982.
I'm surprised you didn't go with Evil Dead.
Because Evil Dead also, like, can we say franchise in general? Maybe Evil Dead, because then I would include the musical and the show and the comics.
Just the whole.
It's Evil Dead in my mind is an experience. There's so much to it.
It's a world. It's like saying Star Wars to you.
Yeah, it's like there's too many to just
pick one.
Yeah.
All right.
Because like Army of Darkness, I'd argue is more fantasy horror.
Yeah.
And comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like at that point, there was genre meshing.
For sure.
I gotta say, of all like the legacy horror franchises that I've been able to like watch so far, The Evil Dead has been my least favorite. Like, I may have to go back and watch it again because like I really feel like I'm missing something because I don't know anybody else who doesn't enjoy the movies. But
I think the second one gets more love than the first one.
The first one was my least favorite for sure.
And that I can kind of understand because when you watch the second one, you get kind of a remake of the first one for the first half of the movie, and then it's the sequel at the second half, and then Army of Darkness is really just the sequel to Evil Dead 2. So I would have renamed them. I would have called them Evil Dead Army of Darkness 1, Army of Darkness 2.
So I'm gonna put forward a thing, and you as the Evil Dead fan can like counteract me if I'm off base. But I think
I don't want to represent this over.
No. Well, more so than me. But like, I think part of the fun of the Evil Dead is like the meta narrative because there's the story of like. Because Raimi, when they were making it in the woods, they were just like a bunch of kids. So there's this whole story about like there were all these camera things that he did that he did cheap and easy because they only had like $20 to make the movie.
Like being the monster.
Like the whole monster illusion thing. I don't know how popular that was before, but like he built all these like 2x4 apparatuses to do all funky stuff with the camera, like being able to lift people off the ground with and wave them around on a stick.
Which was not safe. There were a lot of injuries on set.
Speaking, that's why I picked this background, because the background here where you have like the hand and the different drawings of like creatures and then like the different like almost ancient text, it kind of remind me something that you would see in a Book of the Dead. So that's why I had to pick it.
I've used his pages.
Yeah.
When I have
it definitely has some Evil Dead vibes to it. I like it.
I'm gonna throw a little trivia out there. Designing these pages, there's 3 different languages, and these are all translatable back to English.
Oh no way! Awesome. That's really awesome.
It actually says.
Yeah, I knew there was something cool about that.
Yeah,
that's awesome, man.
And each of them have their own like grammar rules too. So it's it takes a while to figure out, but just to draw them. So but I had it's been fun. We had one of our conventions. We had a guy who was actually like a military code cracker who like bought them as a challenge. He's just like, I'm gonna figure this out.
I still think you need to make an entire book of them.
I'm working on it. I want to get another 6 pages done.
Monster Milk. Remember, Rob showed me Hellraiser one of the times I visited and couldn't sleep all night thanks to the. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So with Hellraiser, I got a witch dismemberment scene because there's like 3 per movie.
Yeah.
Well, one of the best scenes especially from the first one, is when the uncle's body is reanimating back from the dead.
Just
Such a
effect.
yeah. And the thing is, you watch the behind the scenes, all that was literally played in reverse.
Mhm.
And that's what's so great about practical effects and not with CGI, especially with John Carpenter's The Thing, with the robotics. My favorite scene of all time is just, the whole spider head, and that whole scene is just great. I could watch that scene over and over again just to see how it's done. And like, man, this is not CGI, and it looks so much better than a lot of crap that's coming out today.
There's just not much like The Thing, man. Like,
Mhm.
it took me forever to see that movie, and I remember Ronnie and another friend of ours, Gary, and the artist I was working with, Aaron, would always be on my case about watching it. And when I finally watched it, I was like, "Oh, they all knew."
I found the Holy Grail. No.
This is that's my kind of horror, like through and through. It was like, okay, like I was supposed to see this movie. So no, there's just nothing much better than that as far as film goes for me.
It's definitely up there.
I'm a John Carpenter nut anyway, so I really enjoy his horror.
Carpenter's got a solid catalog. We've talked about this before and other stuff. He's a workhorse. Like if you look at his IMDb, there's a 20-year span where he like just directing 18 movies. That's not even writing credits. So it's a crazy
and
amount
they
of
were like They Live was like kind of hokey, but that's a good story. Like it really is.
Even in the bad John Carpenter movies, there's always like an element of craftsmanship that you can like really take. Like a lot of people hated on what's Lord of? I'm forgetting the name now. I just had it in my brain. He did one about basically the devil coming back, and they had like. But it had like
what is the name of that movie? Yeah,
Lord of something. Someone's screaming in the comments
immediately afterwards.
Exactly. But anyway, there's a lot of people who have issues with that movie because it was like right after like They Live and The Thing and all. He does all these classic, and then this one comes out. And it's
Prince of Darkness. That's
absolutely.
That's my favorite of John Carpenter horror. That was my first exposure to religious horror, and it's like that's a lot of what I write now. And
a lot of people didn't like it, but like the mirror effects on that one and some of the shots he did and just the setup of tension and there's still good things in there from a filmmaking perspective, even if the story didn't grab you. So Carpenter, like he's always putting in the effort. So Carpenter doesn't
for sure. So we talked about it a little bit before we went on the show. What would be your favorite horror movie that pretty much, it's bad, but it's good at the same time?
I'm going to say Critters 4 is mine.
Why 4?
Critters 4 is the one in space, and it's done so well. Critters 4. So the cast of Critters 4 has a lot of. We can talk about Jacob's Ladder. I love Jacob's Ladder.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
for sure. That's not a bad movie. So that's not that hard. But anyway, Critters 4. It's a whole. In the sequel-itis of 80s horror, everything started ending in space. But with Critters, it actually made sense because they were aliens.
They were always in space. Yeah.
But, like ET situation.
But you watch Critters 4, and the sets are made of like tinfoil and cardboard. And the actors that they got are amazing. And the script that they gave them is atrocious. And it's just so many missed things. Like you can see how they could have made a halfway decent Critters movie because that's all you have to do, and they just missed the bar. It's like watching someone like I'm not gonna say like running the Olympic thing where they have to jump over the hurdles. Imagine if the hurdles were only like 2 inches and the guy still tripped. Like it's such a low bar to make a Critters movie that's entertaining. And Critters 4 is it's just the car crash to watch. I love it.
At least it's not the one with the Smurfette.
No, Critters Attacks is just bad.
She had eyelashes.
That one I couldn't enjoy, and I really wanted to.
It was just legitimately bad.
Remember the sentimentality of the hot alien turning into the hobo at the end of Critters 2? And it was like, that was like, oh, but it's like, that's so bizarre, like to think like that's part of my childhood. But
Yeah.
man, like, yeah, Critters movies they were out there for sure.
Oh, for sure.
They had some good when he first turned into the centerfold, and then he takes the staple out.
Yeah.
Yes.
What a great gag.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, so good. Those are such good movies, man. I love it.
But again, some great effects, because when he was freaking out because his partner died, you just saw like the different facial expressions that he probably took over throughout his years as a bounty hunter.
Yeah.
But
a lot of the effects on that, though, with Critters, like you had the budget for that because the Critters were just like this puppet. Like they had
pretty much.
The arms are just like just dangling there. They don't do anything. It's just you just have to operate the mouth.
Yeah.
So you could save the budget for those morph effects.
Favorite bad horror movie though. You ever see Frankenhooker?
Yes, I have.
That might be it for me, because there's so much wrong with that movie, but it makes me happy. It's awful, and it makes me happy. And it's Frankenhooker, and it's exactly what it says on the tin.
Exactly.
Wait, Frankenhooker?
Yes.
Yeah,
it's exactly what it sounds like.
Yes.
I've never heard of it. Oh my
gosh.
Right up there for me with Baltneck, which...
What else did the guy who did Frankenhooker do? Was he the basket case guy, or am I confusing him?
Oh, basket case. Oh my gosh.
Maybe.
Oh, so many movies that I've seen from the 80s.
At least Baltneck had Ryan Reynolds.
I do. Frankenhooker, the guy who did Frankenhooker did other stuff too, because Frankenhooker is not considered his best film, but I do not remember.
The Leprechaun series,
Oh, the Leprechaun series is another one that ended in space for no reason.
Why did
they went to space and then he went to the hood, and they just stayed in the hood for like 3 sequels.
Yeah, why was that?
Right?
So, okay. Leprechaun 3 was Leprechaun in the Hood. And I was working concession by this time at the movie theater that we used to clean. And I remember, because sometimes my dad would get there, I would just clean after we closed. And I remember it was like this movie, it was like Leprechaun in the Hood, Friday, and Eddie Murphy Raw. I remember going into those movie theaters, and I'm like, and I was like a little kid, right? Like I was 15 when Friday came out. I was very sheltered. But when Eddie Murphy Raw was out, I was little. And I remember saying, is there a level of funny that just makes people like throw popcorn and soda into the air as high as they like? When will I experience something that funny in my life? I still haven't, but I still never understood like how messy Leprechaun in the Hood got for a movie theater. But
I could see it catching on as a midnight movie amongst a certain crowd, because like I would not want to own a theater where you run the midnight movie of.
And it was $1.50 theater. Like anybody could come. Like $1.50 was cheap in 1995. Like
I remember those days.
Yeah.
We got engaged in a movie theater.
We did.
Oh,
no way. Awesome. That's cool.
I told you to get off the floor because it was gross.
Well, you didn't want a public engagement, right. So we went to Box Trolls, and luckily it was a good movie, because if it was a bad movie, I had to wait.
Right.
And I had to wait for everyone else to leave, because like I don't want some like old people like clapping. It's not their moment. Go away.
Right.
So I had to wait for everyone else to leave. Yeah. And I just like kneeled in front of you, and I tried to show you the ring, but it was dark, and you're just like, "Honey, I want to go to Applebee's. Get off the ground."
And because of the angle, I couldn't see past my boob, and actually could not see that he was holding the ring.
Oh man!
I thought he was just screwing with me. I feel bad about it, and will till I die.
It's a great story. And then you got Applebee's. So
I figured it out. We're married now.
Yeah.
There you go.
We got there.
I guess all's well that ends well.
Yeah.
You know? Like,
right.
Accomplished.
One series that's I don't know, because I like the series, but it's one of those series like it does have people dying in it, but it's comedy as well. I just enjoy the Attack of the Killer Tomato stuff. It's
Yes.
just so funny,
I
especially
never
when they
watched
turn
that
it into a
cartoon.
cartoon series.
Yeah.
And then it's like one of those things. Like as a kid, my older siblings would take me to Blockbuster to buy horror movies, and I wasn't afraid of it. I was just thought it was like really cool. It's like, oh, let me watch that horror movie because the cover art was just amazing.
Yo.
But one of the movies, once I finally seen it before I saw the cartoon series of Toxic Avenger, and then I saw the movie, so I'm like, oh my gosh, this is totally different. Why would they advertise this to kids to watch the cartoon series? Because then they'll look it up like the actual movie. But I enjoy them. It's funny.
Beetlejuice had a cartoon. Everything had a cartoon. We did a speed draw once where he reimagined The Thing 1982 as a rom-com, and I drew what it might look like as a cartoon.
Sweet.
One of those properties that they just turned into, because RoboCop, like the opening scene of RoboCop is a man just getting like dismembered by a shotgun, and that got a kids cartoon.
It did.
Yeah.
The 90s.
And then they did the remake. The remake didn't have a powerful impact like the first movie did.
So the stuff like that, like RoboCop and like Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, like back then, for something to get so much steam that it became a kids cartoon, Police Academy. Like now it's easy because it's like social media can like drive anything, right? Like, but like back then, it was just literally us talking about it or hearing our parents talk about it and sneaking and watching it, in a lot of kids' cases. And then like now it's like it blew up. Like I can't imagine. Like there just wasn't the level of communication we have now.
I think they're kind of a double-edged sword there, because back in the day, well, now it's like you have a much more availability for mass communication, and like anyone with an iPhone can shoot a movie because they're shooting movies on iPhones. So if you're not going for a red camera, it's fine for shooting on that. But you have access to the internet, which basically connects you to almost anyone. But society, like our cultural memory, moves so much faster now. Like Star Wars is in the theaters, like the original Star Wars is in the theaters for like 8 months, like at least. And like now things are out of theaters.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Like Game of Thrones is a thing, and then it's not, and no one remembers it anymore, talks about it anymore. It's gone. Like things.
I remember
like Dallas was like the TV show Dallas
Oh
was
my
a
God.
conversation for a decade.
Oh yeah, of course.
That lasted for a while for some reason.
Yeah, but like that's what I'm saying. It's niched more. Like there are people who are into Supernatural for 20 years, but they're over there. Like they're not.
They're on Tumblr.
Yeah, things aren't for entertainment weekly for years straight.
That's true.
Yeah.
But I talk about other things.
It's easier and harder because you can get the attention, but you're not going to keep it as long.
That's true.
Okay, I can see that.
Shop of Horrors.
What was that? Oh yeah.
There was another one that had a black and white movie, and it had a musical, and it had the remake that was a musical and a comedy, and there was also a cartoon, and the cartoon was bad.
Yep. It wasn't very good.
So it was another one that just had all the stages. Beetlejuice eventually also got a musical, but like 20 years later.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
that's what I like when you talked about Beetlejuice, because when I literally went on your website and saw the frightening, adorable, and unique, I just thought of Lydia talking about how she's able to see ghosts because she's strange and unusual. I mean, that just gave me like that Beetlejuice vibes.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I have a sandworm tattoo. So
awesome.
It's near and dear to my heart.
Yeah. So you want to talk a little bit? Well, we talked a lot about horror stuff, but is there any images you might want to show to the audience, like artwork or anything like that?
What do we? I didn't prepare anything. I have our books here, but I think
I kind of wish we had the Thing picture on hand.
I could try to find it, but I would have prepared to show stuff. I don't have anything on hand.
Gotcha.
Fine, thanks.
So, but we can books. Yeah. I've got the books. We've got Unicorns and Other Terrors. Here's the one that we haven't shown yet. They're
Oh, wow.
they're fairy tales, but they're like German fairy tales. So there's a
Yep.
lot. It's not kid appropriate.
I'm
For
gonna make
some
you guys
reason,
solo so that way
starring
people
the
can see
children.
it better. So let me see.
Unicorns and Other Terrors.
So that's the one we truly did together.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we have plans for other joint books.
Some art splash pages between
Oh
stuff.
man, I like that.
Wow.
I like that a
is
lot.
Awesome.
Wait, that character right there reminds me of a classic horror movie that I loved watching as a kid, and that was Dolls.
Oh yeah.
That might have. Was there a Mr. Punch specific puppet? There might have been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was her, at the end. Her father turned into it after he killed the original one. Yep.
Punch and Judy.
Mm-hmm.
I could have
I
done
don't want
Judy.
to put any spoilers up. So.
Which movie?
Do you
what
guys
movie
have
is this?
Dolls? It's a movie in the 80s.
They're all in the 80s.
They did.
Mhm.
There was a surge in the 80s of like the smaller things being horrible. You saw it with like
Mhm.
Gremlins, Critters, Dolls, Puppet
Yep.
Master, like the Child's Play. Like these things that were small and thus not threatening, but like they'd overpower like grown men.
I appreciated that.
As a small.
As a 4'11", yes.
Yeah.
Appreciated that.
You know, Chucky kind of became like Freddy. Like he became known for his witty kills.
I enjoyed the TV series. People need to watch the TV series.
I've heard that.
Yeah, he kind of morphed from like just like this malicious figure in the shadows to just like the quip guy.
You know,
So
that's one that they did do a remake. The remake got forgotten really fast, and then they went, you know what? Let's just bring back the other one. Actually,
Yeah.
the original. Let's just do that again. Just
Yeah,
pretend
I'm not
the
going to
remake
talk
was
about
better.
the remake. The remake was horrible, especially the
That's what I'm saying.
concept of it.
But the fact that the response to that was bring back the one that already worked, I kind of like that.
I saw the first trailer for the remake and I'm just like, oh, that looks like creepy. I'll watch that. And then someone told me like, well, it's a malfunctioning AI. I went, oh, never mind.
Yeah, that's not what that is. That's something else.
And no offense to Mark
thinking of
Hamill.
murder.
Mark Hamill's a great voice actor, but every time I heard Chucky, I always think it was just the Joker.
You okay there?
I'm fine.
Wrong pipe.
Do you have any of your plushies with you? If not, I could just bring up one of the ones on your website.
Yeah, we have those storage right now. We're between conventions. I've got stuff that's halfway made, but you should probably pull up images.
I can show you
Yeah.
headless.
Let me see.
This will become a wing.
Mhm.
Yeah, we got the comics, we got the plushies.
So I could show one of the first things I ever made. Those Ragamuffin from Lenore.
Oh yeah.
You know, Roman Dirge's Lenore comic.
Oh, that's cool.
Back in the day.
Look
Oh,
at
that's
that.
our
we can
friend
talk about
Jay
this.
Borello.
We actually there is a comic called Blinky and Sal, and
Okay.
that
The
is
Big Insane
that's,
Happy.
that's Blinky from Big Insane Happy. Our friend Jay Borello has been running that comic for a while, and we reached out and said we loved your comic, and we came to an agreement to like we do his merch, and there's a split that happens with the monies, so that people get their bats and he gets paid as the creator, and then we also get to like pay our mortgage. So
way back in the day, I was a big fan of Roman Dirge and Jonah Vasquez and all that. And there really wasn't merch in the world for anything from that company.
pretty hot
Mhm.
topic.
Like, so I made one.
Awesome.
So this
Awesome.
is really old. I had to make my own because Hot Topic didn't sell them. They probably do now,
They do that.
but I still have mine that I hand painted like a lunatic.
That's cool. I see that some of the events that you went to, you've seen some classic horror actors. Who's probably your most favorite that you've come across with?
We've also had some funny run-ins.
Mhm.
Like
At conventions, if you're manning a booth, you tend to meet famous people in the bathroom. So we
Yeah,
both have like
that's the
we
thing.
peed next to a famous person's story.
Yeah. You was Curtis Armstrong.
Yep, the guy who Booger from Revenge of the Nerds.
Awesome.
That's right.
Oh, that's so
good
awesome. Classic.
And you peed next to Uhura.
I did. And when she left the bathroom,
Wow, that's so awesome.
That's awesome.
and when she left the bathroom, I turned to the girl who was still there. I said, "Did you see who that was? You know, from Star Trek." And she looked at me like, "Okay, you're kind of old." So but I was happy.
You need to appreciate the classics. You know, she's like, I just want to poop.
For this.
But
yeah,
I think
it'd be one of those things like if, what was it? It's a shame because a lot of kids, especially that are like watching horror movies now, they don't remember some of the old like hosts that used to like do TV shows and stuff like that. So it's like one day I was like, "Hey, so you see how Elvira, she still looks great for her age?" They're like, "Who's that?" I'm like, "Oh my gosh, you're missing out."
We were across from Elvira once. I got to stare at her longingly, but couldn't leave the booth. She smiled at me once.
That's awesome.
And
she gave us her little wave as she came into her booth.
Yeah.
She had a line in the whole convention.
In the first horror movie, it's Attack from the Killer Tomatoes that she's being the host of.
So I think if John Kassir was at that one too, the voice of Crypt Keeper, because every so often from behind us he'd let loose the laugh.
Oh,
you just hear it through the hall.
I couldn't see him, but we could hear him.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
I think my favorite one was we were at a horror convention and Doug Bradley, the guy who plays Pinhead, was there, and we had actually every so often for conventions we'll make a custom cat or a series of custom cats. So for this horror convention we had our Fright Adorable cats, but they were dressed up like Freddy and Jason and Pinhead. And he before the con started, he was just walking around and he just stops at our booth and goes, "Ah!"
We got a picture of him holding it.
We got a picture of Pinhead holding Pinhead.
Maybe very
happy. That's got to be pretty awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah, like, even if I don't sell anything, that's priceless right there.
Yeah. Awesome. And what was the time you saw somebody from Kiss?
Oh, we're at a horror convention, and they also had Peter Criss, the drummer from Kiss, there.
That's right.
Oh, that's cool.
It was a multi-day convention in the hotel, so we were preparing to pack up Saturday night and just go get some pizza and crash in our room. And in my mind, this guy comes by, I'm just like, that's a really good Peter Criss cosplay. It's just everything about it, but he's carrying a briefcase. And then it's as soon as he gets 10 feet by me, I'm like, it's not a cosplay, that's Peter Criss, and he has the briefcase because he's at work. It's so weird to see
that's awesome.
the big goth boots and the leather vest and the makeup and the hair with the streaks in it, and just normal brown briefcase because he's at work.
Alice Cooper came and bought a golf club at a Sports Authority when I managed there, and I didn't even recognize him. But I guess he's this fantastic golfer, and whenever he's in the area, he stopped at that Sports Authority, and everybody was like, "Did you see who that was?" I'm like, "Nope, sure didn't." But it's that's the one that got away. I think that would have been the most famous person that I've met. But
I keep hearing rumors that Stephen King likes eating at diners around here, but I've never seen him.
I've been looking. I've definitely been looking.
You're
true.
Yeah. Yeah, but one day.
Yeah.
So with cons, have you guys just focused on horror cons, or have you gone to actual comic book cons too to sell stuff?
We talked about this a little bit in the pre-call, but we don't limit ourselves to one thing. Horror, obviously, the spookiness is throughout. But we've done fantasy conventions, we've done steampunk conventions, comic conventions.
The only problem with the regular comic book conventions, and sometimes other conventions, is that there are certain things we can't bring because not all of our stuff is PG-13.
Yeah.
And
my webcomic is not.
Yeah. So these days that gets a little harder.
We've even been invited to the horror conventions where it's just it's PG-13. I'm just half of the horror's off the table then.
We did the
right, yeah. That's a tough break for horror. You gotta let loose the horror.
The PG-13ification, I can't even remember the last R movie that was really pushed because
we got invited once. I won't say which comic book shop, but we did a thing at a comic book shop,
Mhm.
And this person had claimed to know my work and knew my work, and then said that I couldn't bring one of my books.
No, we got there with the book, and he said
couldn't display it.
we couldn't display it.
The problem with that is that behind me was Tank Girl, and Tank Girl has a community.
Yeah.
And why is that okay? Is it okay because it was written by a man and you've heard of it, or is I'm just never seeing a chick? Is that the issue?
They also on their counter had a Vampirella statue, and that woman's wearing 2 pieces of dental floss. So,
Mhm.
Well, I was weirdly offended by the fact that they were offended.
Yeah, for sure.
I draw boobs. Just let me draw boobs.
People like boobs.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with boobs.
Yeah.
Like I just feel like that there's enough room for everything to exist.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And
I completely understand if you're running like a kid friendly con, you got stuff to do. But like if you're running a horror con, there might be some non-kid friendly elements.
Yeah, at that point, if
Absolutely.
you've already
or at least you should probably have a section where you say, "Oh, this is not for kids," for people who like want to see Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like,
oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Also, I've never liked the idea that violence is okay, but consensual sex is not.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah,
that's not great. So you wind up with non-consensual sex because it can be considered violence, and then that's all kids see, and it's like that's not a good lesson, actually.
Yeah,
that's the opposite of what you're aiming for.
No.
Gotcha.
Yeah, nobody gets that part. I don't get it. Like I'm just now like really exposing myself, and as silly as it sounds, to like really hard R-rated things, and I know what I like and I know what I don't like. But if the story is good and it makes sense, I don't really think there needs to be an upper limit if it's for the purpose of storytelling. I think sometimes things get shocking with no substance, and it's kind of like the super nuclear hot sauces that lose all flavor in the midst of trying to incapacitate you. Like
there's no Scoville units, but it tastes like crap.
Yeah, exactly. There's no magic. So no, like I believe, especially with horror, it's definitely my favorite genre. I think that horror comics are like one of the. It's a tough thing to pull off. Like, and I hope that I get to do it some justice one day. But I really hope that there's a day where people can just tell stories and throw a label on it. But like, there shouldn't be a way that you shouldn't be able to tell your story. I don't know, like creativity, like take all my internet security away, but like don't put a cap on creativity. Like
for sure.
I get it, because the art, especially horror, like there's a chance it makes you uncomfortable. But if you're just making art to make people uncomfortable, then it's probably not good art. Like
the best horror comes from making yourself uncomfortable.
Yeah, exploring those and why. Yeah, I would agree.
Awesome.
Yeah, a lot of my horror has to do with growing up in a cult and like the amplified reality of what it means to get what you want, like what you don't speak of, what has to happen. And so I kind of like live in the worst part of the consequences with a lot of my horror, but it feels right. And it does make people uncomfortable because it's supposed to make people uncomfortable.
Right.
That's what we're here for. Like, if it's not making you uncomfortable, like, is it still horror? Is it horror comedy? Like, I don't know. Like, real horror has to be unsettling, and it has to relate to people, and it's harder to get to people now unless you're speaking real life stuff that's happening.
The cult thing's probably a really deep well to draw from too, because you've got this. You've got this area of comfort, but it's still uncomfortable. So
especially with my last episode of my webcomic. Just I brought the gore in with that one for sure. But that's the fun thing as a horror creator, is like trying to find a way to make something like shocking, like a dead body that you'll reveal in the comic, but trying to like make it not look cheesy, but look realistic as well. Yeah. And then sometimes it's like, okay, I have to find out how to have this person's head being cut off. So let me watch a horror movie and like pause it to really grasp like how this is supposed to look, where it doesn't look totally cheesy.
Yeah, I've done research on things that I would like to unsee, but I needed to do
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
I've learned lots of things that now I know.
The writer-artist conundrum of I have to Google this, but I'm going on a list.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
My internet search history is the worst it's ever been for the most well-meaning reasons. I guess that's the best way to say it.
That's awesome. But yeah, we're at 50 minutes. I pretty much have all the questions I wanted to ask. What about you, Jason? You have any more?
No, man, but thanks for coming, guys. This was a fun chat. Like, I hope we get to talk again. Like, thanks for adding me on Instagram. So, like, I hope we get to stay in touch. Like,
of course, yeah.
You guys have a pretty dope learning tree I'd like to sit under every once in a while.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm happy because I'll talk about it again. You know, I message Jason and this Robert Ogre. He's not part of the show anymore. One day, hopefully, he'll come back. But it's just, I'm happy that I decided to message, and Jason's like, yeah, let's make this horror show. Because the thing is that there's more comics out there than just superhero comics. And you see people doing like horror reviews, but you don't have a lot of shows like this that's just dedicated truly to horror. So I'm happy that I decided to do this. And it's cool meeting new people and, you know, seeing that there's more creators out there who are doing the exact same thing, you know, trying to bring the horror and just make it popular again. Because not in mainstream, but especially in the indies, the horror indies are just growing every day, and I'm happy to see that.
No, we really appreciate you guys existing in this space, and we very much appreciate being given like a rental of your platform. So thanks for having me.
Not a problem. Once you become our guest, you're always welcome to come back again.
Yep.
Once I have Entropy Head in the world, then I'll have to come back and show you that horror comic.
So now your audience has been introduced to us in general, so now we can go back to the specifics. So when the movie's done, we can come back. When Entropy Head's dead, and we can come back because that one's more about like mental horror and trauma and not being sure about what in the world is real. Demons. So
and
for sure,
I love it.
I have no sense of genre.
For sure, whenever you got something to promote, just hit us up and we'll let you on.
Yeah, I'm watching now. Like I'm into it now, so I'll be around for sure.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We'll come back and talk about whatever, whenever. So
probably
good, man.
Sweet. Sideburns, what's up? Coming at the last minute, or maybe you've been here for a while. We just having a good talk. Oh yeah, he was here for a while. Yeah, but yeah. And thank you, Teresa Monster Milk. Yeah, thanks for coming along,
by, guys. Like always a pleasure to have guests that listen and hang out in the chat, and we have good conversation with our guests on the show, man. Like, this is a good day. Today's been a good day.
And for anybody watching the replay, I have all their links down below to their website, their YouTube channel, to their Instagram. Go subscribe and like all that stuff because they just not just hearing them talk. I've looked at their work. They got really good work. You know, go out there and show support. All right.
Hold up, Ronnie.
What's up?
Hold up. No, y'all don't go nowhere.
You got something to promote?
Nobody move. Nobody goes anywhere. Hold up. Give me 2 seconds, guys.
What's up?
We put up a new product on the bundle site. I got
really
get it pulled up. Yeah. It's a collection of some of the horror that we've done over the past year. Here we go. Now I can do this. I'm the worst at this screen share. Where is that? Here we go. So this is the site. This is what we did all last year. 3 bundles. You can read some sample bundles, but the Vault of Horror is up. Like this is a quadruple size bundle, like bundle size that we did. So you can go get this. It's got 5 or 6 of our good horror stories in it. Jagged Edges, The End, The Message, Fright Rider, and The Drive-In. Oh my gosh, those were so fun. Like Aaron's artwork is ridiculously good. I'll open this one up so y'all can see it. This is one of the best ones. But like these are like 1/8 size comics, and this one ran for 6 months, and it was so good. And now we're doing Drifter, and Drifter is like everything. It's everything mystic kung fu horror that you could ever want in a comic. And they're these little tiny things, but like these, they hold so much weight, guys. Like minicomicbundles.com, I always have to mention it because I'm very, very proud of them. I'm very proud of them. So that's all I got, Ronnie. I'm not going to go on and on tonight.
It's going on our list.
That's all right. All right. So while you guys, I'm here, I'm just going to show you one of the images for my episode 3. Let me try to make this bigger. Well, I actually go from here. Yeah.
Next time we'll have to have some images.
Next time we'll have our prepared.
We brought the books up. Hand me a Donna.
Well, he
yeah.
Just hand me a Donna.
Don't
Just do it.
He's doing his thing.
I don't know if you guys could see, but yeah, my episode 3, The Great Escape.
That is a nice gooey beast.
Yeah.
Make a good cup.
So yeah, just Tapas got 3 episodes up. Keep on creating as every month I can when I have time. So yeah, not going to spoil too much of the title there. Just appreciate it if you guys like, subscribe, follow. You stop sharing there. But yeah, but thanks again for coming along.
Thanks for having us.
Not a problem.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you all have a good night, and we'll see you all next week. Bye.
Y'all take care. Bye.